Hey everybody, it's Tony Cottaspati from Great Vocal Majority YouTube channel, podcast and website. And today I want to talk to you about this epic confrontation between Acosta and Stephen Miller. Now, much of the media today are going to focus their attention on the heated exchange between those two guys. But rather than focus really too much of our attention on that drama, we really need to focus on the issues at which the policy change is being aimed. First, I do want to address this really totally unprofessional behavior by Jim Acosta. It really is unprecedented for a mainstream media reporter to adopt such an openly biased and hostile stance at a press briefing. Now, Miller, the president's rep, was there to announce the proposed changes in the immigration policy and to flesh them out, to explain them, to give them more fuller meaning. Now, in that effort, of course, the news media is duty bound. They have to ask questions that will fully clarify what that policy is. That's their job. It's not the media's job to become argumentative, accusatory, oppositional, or to act as advocates for an entirely different policy, which is what Jim Acosta was doing. I just couldn't believe what I was watching. And he has no business doing anything like that, at least not if we're going to assume that he's there in the role of an unbiased newsman. That's a laugh, right? Acosta's constant interruptions, there were 56 interruptions in all, in 7 minutes. And the endless lecturing that he gave us deprived American citizens of real information. We learned more about Jim Acosta's feelings on the immigration policy in the United States than we did about the actual change in policy. Acosta acted out very similar to the same way on college campuses leftist radicals act out when they shout down and riot to shut up Republicans or conservatives that happen to show up and deprive them of their right to be heard. I mean, it was really not very much different than that, except for the violence. There is a truism that says you can't learn anything if you're only you're the only one doing the talking. And Jim Acosta and leftists like him don't think they need to listen or learn anything because they believe they already know everything they need to know. That's the mindset of a fanatical advocate, not a journalist. Jim Acosta is not a journalist. Acosta revealed his biases by assuming that he knows the animating reason for the change in policy is Trump's supposed antipathy toward non-English speaking Latinos and other people who aren't white. But this, as Miller attempted to point out, is belied by the facts. So rather than exposing the presumed biases of Trump, Acosta actually exposed his own biases and the assumptions that he makes about Trump and his administration. Now, something like that would normally prove to be toxic to the credibility of anyone representing a major news media outlet, but not today. Evidently, the rules have been changed for Donald Trump. Could you imagine anything like this happening under Obama? No. End of story. Now, in the aftermath of this disgraceful display, Acosta went on the air at CNN thinking he brought the heat to Miller, and Miller melted down. In fact, just the opposite happened. He proved himself to be unworthy of even being there. He's of being called a journalist with White House credentials. There's almost no possibility that Jim Acosta is going to lose his press credentials or be demoted at CNN. In any case, his brand of reporting really doesn't have any place in an honest and adversarial news media. Look, I want an adversarial news media. What I don't want is what Jim Acosta's bringing. The president's policy is actually a good policy. This is a world where English is the language of business. English is spoken in almost every country in the world. and it is the primary language in dozens of countries. Making accusations of racial or ethnic bias by requiring English for new immigrants is really utter nonsense. It's just totally off base. In the United States, if someone is unable to speak English, they are at a serious economic disadvantage until they are able to speak English. That disadvantage can manifest itself through very narrow employment opportunities because you don't qualify, and a greater likelihood that you're going to end up as a dependent of government. The statistics bear that out. Those immigrants, both legal and illegal, who are not competent in English are far more heavily reliant on government assistance than those who are competent in English. Don't we want people who are competent in English in this country? Now, reducing dependency on government, especially the welfare safety nets, is a critical component of reducing federal spending. Now, this didn't just happen. Under Obama, in that administration, agencies actually became advocates for dependency on government. Eligibility rules were loosened, and federal agencies actually scoured economically depressed areas in Appalachia, for example, to deliberately push people into government dependency. They tried to get them to forego their traditions. In one place, I think it might have been in West Virginia, where they have something called mountain pride, where they don't believe in government dependency, they believe more in self-reliance. The government was actively discouraging that. That's because the Obama administration didn't believe in people being self-reliant. They believed in people being enslaved into government reliance. And I know a lot of people are going to object to the term, but there's a difference between slavery and enslavement. Look it up. But Trump was elected to reverse that, and he's determined to do it. Now, about 1 million immigrants come into the United States each year, and a very large percentage of them are poor, uneducated, and unskilled. Generally speaking, though, most of them are very willing to work. It's not like they're unwilling to work, but their willingness to work isn't really the issue. The issue the president's policy seeks to address are the millions of Americans at the bottom of the economic ladder who lack education or skills, who are disproportionately Black and minorities, especially Hispanic minorities, and their unemployment rate is double the overall rate. And narrowly, it's 4 times the rate of educated and skilled Americans of all ethnic varieties. A continuous flow each year of hundreds of thousands of unskilled and uneducated people into this country puts downward pressure on wages at the entry level or the lowest unskilled level of labor. And that hurts our citizens who are poorest, because the competition for those jobs is made more intense the more we allow in people who are unskilled, can't speak English, whatever. So something must be done to expand the work opportunities for the people at the lowest end. And a good starting point is this immigration policy, which is more intelligent and more targeted because it's focused on helping the Americans who need help the most. It would have been nice if Jim Acosta would have shut up for a minute or two, because if he did, he would have learned that from Stephen Miller. But he wasn't interested in learning anything. Remember what I said. He interrupted him 56 times in 7 minutes. Jim Acosta is not unlike his soulmates in Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and the Black Bloc. He doesn't permit his opponents to speak. He's too in love with the sound of his own voice. That's it for me. I'm Tony Acosta from Great Vocal Majority. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Take care.